Hello, and welcome to Dining with Death, where we discuss infamous cases of death and murder that have an element of food to them, and then we cook the food from the case. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. American serial killer Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Bundy on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. He was raised by his grandparents, believing that his mother was his sister. His sister, Eleanor Louise Cowell, never formally identified who the father of Bundy was. The birth certificate reportedly lists Lloyd Marshall, an Air Force veteran, as the father, but other accounts say it says unknown. There have always been rumors that Louise's own father, Samuel Cowell, who was known to be abusive, was the father of Bundy. Bundy did not discover that the woman he knew as his sister was actually his mother until later in life. Kind of can't help but wonder if that had something to do with messing him up, right? Lying is never a good idea. After graduating high school in 1965, Bundy attended the University of Puget Sound for a year before transferring to the University of Washington. In 1968, he dropped out of college and worked odd jobs. He re-enrolled at University of Washington in mid-1970 and graduated in 1972. He did a number of jobs and internships for Republican politicians in his area. In 1973, he was accepted into the law school of the University of Utah. I have to say, my uncle and my father were at the University of Utah during this same time, and they tell a very well-told story of another well-known Utah man they are friends with who saw Ted Bundy in the Commons area of the student lounge with scratches all over his face and neck. And they joked around with him, "Boy, Ted must have been a wild one last night." And now that doesn't seem quite as funny. His erratic behavior, both in his personal and professional lives, became noticeable. He began missing all of his classes, and in April of 1974, he stopped attending altogether. There is no consensus on when or where Bundy began killing women. He told different stories to different people, but always refused to divulge the secrets of his early crimes. It is known that he attempted his first kidnapping in 1968, but claims he did not kill anyone until 1971 in Seattle. Many people believe he started killing while he was still a teenager. Circumstantial evidence suggests that he may have abducted and killed 8-year-old Anne Marie Burr of Tacoma, Washington, when he was just 14 years old. His earliest proven homicides were committed in 1974 when he was just 27. By then, and by his own admission, he had mastered all the necessary skills in the era before DNA to leave minimal incriminating evidence at crime scenes. His crimes are much too extensive for us to begin to cover them all here today, but Bundy's documented killings include multiple murders in 1974, beginning with the murder of Linda Ann Healy in Seattle, Washington. Bundy abducted her from her basement bedroom, he bludgeoned her to death, decapitated her, and took her head home. Her skull was later found on Taylor Mountain, 20 miles east of Seattle. He continued killing in the Seattle area and moved to Utah in 1974, where, as I previously stated, he had been accepted to the law school of the University of Utah. He admitted to killing Nancy Wilcox, just 16, from the Holiday, Utah area. He said he assaulted and strangled her and buried her body near Capitol Reef National Park, some 200 plus miles from the site of her abduction. He committed more killings in Utah, but one woman survived. Terrell DeRanch, 18, says that Bundy identified himself to her as a police officer, told her that her car had been broken into, and asked her to go down to the station with him. She became suspicious, and as he attempted to handcuff her, she fought him off and escaped. When you've been fascinated with this kind of stuff for as long as I have, there's one thing that you learn, and that's that there are red flags. Men who pretend to be police officers and who are obsessed with police officers and kind of have a police fetish, that's a red flag. There's something scary there. There's something wrong there. On that same day, Bundy attacked and killed Deborah Kent, 17, of Salt Lake City. He killed her and buried her body near Nancy Wilcox in Capitol Reef National Park. He continued killing throughout 1979 in Colorado, Texas, Idaho, and Utah. Bundy was first arrested on August 16, 1975 by Utah Highway Patrol Officer Bob Hayward in Granger, Utah, which is a suburb of Salt Lake City. The officer noticed Bundy cruising a residential area in the pre-dawn hours, and Bundy fled when he saw the patrolman. He refused to stop when ordered, and it was then that the officer realized he drove the same car, a Volkswagen Bug, that had been described by survivor Carol DeRanch. Bundy was arrested, and the car, that had been sold to a Midvale, Utah teenager, was dismantled and searched. Hairs matching those of murder victim Karen Campbell were found in the car. It's cool that back in the 70s they could match hair. You know, you think of that, mean, I was alive, but it was a long time ago. And they could still match hair even back then, which is amazing. On October 2nd, 1975, Bundy was put into a lineup. Survivor DeRanch immediately identified him as the man who said he was Officer Roseland. He was charged with aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault and was freed by his parents on $15,000 bail. While he was awaiting trial, officers from the various states began communicating and became convinced that Bundy was responsible for the many murders of women in their various states. In February 1976, Bundy stood trial for the DeRanch kidnapping. He was found guilty and was sentenced to 1 to 15 years in the Utah State Prison. While there, he was caught hiding a homemade escape kit in the bushes at the prison and spent several weeks in solitary confinement for it. He was then charged with the murder of Karen Campbell, whose hair was found in his bug, and he was extradited to Colorado to stand trial there in 1977. The prison bus arrived at the courthouse on June 7, 1977. Bundy was acting as his own attorney and therefore was excused by the judge from wearing handcuffs or leg shackles. We all know where this is going. During a recess, he asked to visit the courthouse's law library. Shielded by a bookcase, he opened the window, jumped to the ground from a second-story window, and disappeared. About a week later, he was caught after breaking into a cabin and put back in prison. Believe it or not, he escaped from jail again on December 30th. In Aspen. He stole a car, which broke down. He was then picked up by a motorist who took him into Vail. He then caught a bus to Denver and boarded a flight to Chicago. He was already in Chicago 17 hours after his escape before they realized he was gone. From Chicago, Bundy traveled to Michigan and then Atlanta, where he took a bus to Tallahassee, Florida. On the early hours of January 15, 1978, he entered Florida State University's Chi Omega sorority house through a rear door and bludgeoned Margaret Bowman, 21, with a piece of oak firewood. He then garroted her with a nylon stocking and went into the bedroom of her roommate, 20-year-old Lisa Levy, and beat her unconscious, strangled her, mutilated her body, and bit her very deeply. That bite wound would come back to haunt him, as he had very crooked bottom teeth, and it was later matched up and proven he was the one who did the attack. In the next room, he attacked Kathy Kleiner, breaking her jaw, and then fought with another roommate, Karen Chandler, who also suffered a broken jaw and concussion, loss of teeth, and a crushed finger. Chandler and Kleiner survived. Bundy ran from the sorority house and into the basement apartment of Cherry Thomas, who he attacked, dislocating her shoulder, fracturing her jaw and skull in 5 places. You get this vision that there's just like this maniac, slobbering, wild, running from place to place, killing women and attacking people. But Bundy wasn't like that at all. Not at all. On February 12, 1979, Bundy stole a car and fled Tallahassee. He was stopped by Pensacola police officer David Lee near the Alabama state line after the officer discovered the vehicle was stolen. Bundy fought with the officer. Lee fired a warning shot, gave chase, and tackled Bundy. They fought over the gun, but thankfully the officer won the fight. Bundy stood trial for the Chi Omega homicides and assaults in June of 1975. We could do an entire episode on the circus the trials became. They included antics by Bundy and even an open court marriage proposal.
You want to marry?
On February 10, 1980, Bundy was sentenced to death by electrocution. He did a series of interviews from prison where he did everything from admit to certain murders, give gruesome details of some, and then deny others only to admit to them later. It was a lot. And then again in 1984, guards uncovered a prison escape attempt when they found 2 hacksaw blades that Bundy had hidden in his cell. A steel bar in one of the cell's windows had been sawed completely through at the top and bottom and then glued back into place with a soap-based homemade adhesive. This guy, he was scheduled to be executed several times with stays of execution ordered and new dates put in place. But eventually his time and his appeals ran out. And on January 24, 1989, at 7:16 a.m., Theodore Robert Bundy, one of America's most prolific serial killers, was executed in the Rayford electric chair as revelers sang, danced, and set off fireworks in a pasture across from the prison. Well, I don't know if I blame them. They cheered as a white hearse containing Bundy's corpse departed from the prison. He was cremated in Gainesville, and his ashes were scattered at an undisclosed location in the Cascade Range of Washington State. That was in accordance with his last will and testament. Let's talk about Dante's in Seattle, where Ted Bundy was known to spend a lot of time. Dante's opened in Seattle, 1966, in a historic building that was built in 1924, located at 5300 Roosevelt Way, within walking distance of the University of Washington campus. It has a rowdy reputation, and if you spent your 21st birthday there, the house rule was you never got cut off, no matter how drunk you got, or even if you threw up. Bundy was known to frequent Dante's in Seattle almost nightly. Little did the bar patrons know that the handsome young man having drinks and fish and chips next to them every night was leaving the bar many nights to murder and mutilate young women in the area. It has been documented that he would be in the bar one night, commit a crime that same night, and be in the bar the next day. His first documented victim, Linda Ann Healy, had been at Dante's the night she disappeared. It is not known if she left with Bundy or if he followed her from the bar. The booth that Bundy liked to sit in was eventually turned into a DJ booth. Bundy was known to sit in the booth online and observe the women in the bar. Survey says creepy. In 2008, a British TV crew brought a psychic and a production crew to Dante's, where the psychic reported Bundy's energy still haunts the location. Customers didn't go to Dante's with the intention of having a drink or two, but with the intention of getting hammered. Dante's served sandwiches and small bar bites along with fish and chips, which Bundy was known to order. But on August 18, 2015, Dante's erupted into a small inferno after overheated electrical wiring caused a blaze. Firefighters were called at about 9 a.m. to the bar. Initial reports described light smoke emanating from the building, but responding firefighters entered the bar to find heavy smoke. The bar then closed for remodel, and months later, the owners announced it would not reopen. And that was the end of the infamous Dantes of Seattle. Dante's was known for fish and chips, but it might be most famous for the invention of the Jello Shot syringe. So stay with me as we make fish and chips and watermelon vodka Jello Shot syringes from Dantes of Seattle today as we go dining with death. We are ready to cook. Let's make some fish and chips, and we're gonna make some Jello Shot syringes. I purchased these Jello Shot syringes on Amazon. They are made specifically for this purpose. Aren't they amazing? Would be really fun for parties. And I will put the link in the description in case you want to get some. I think they were around $20 for the set, but they are super easy to use and work out great for this. I'm going to make a double batch of Jell-O. So in a large bowl, I put 2 of the 6-ounce packages of watermelon Jell-O into a bowl, and it took 4 cups of boiling water. You need to mix that into your packets and make sure you stir it really well so that all of those crystals are dissolved. To that, you add 12 ounces of cold water, and this is cutting back the water from the Jell-O recipe, so make sure you follow this one. And then 20 ounces of vodka. You can use any liquor that you want. Make sure you stir that up really well so that everything is well incorporated. And then you take your little syringes, dip them in, pull up the plunger, and they fill. Isn't that cool? And they have a little cap that comes on them that you can make sure they don't have any drips and that the little tips are covered. So you just repeat that with all of your Jello Shot syringes until they're full. And these look incredible. Wouldn't these be great for a Halloween party? The first thing we need to do is prepare our potatoes. So I've got 3 nice waxy Idaho potatoes here. We're gonna peel those and we're gonna chop them into smaller fries. I like a thinner fry. You can chop them however you want. We've got our French fries cut and we're gonna make the batter for the fish. But before I do that, I wanna get my oil heating because it's gonna take a little while to come to temperature, and we don't wanna bring it to temperature quickly because then it can get too hot. So we need to bring it to temperature slowly. So I'm gonna start it now, give myself plenty of time. Not everything has to be completely submerged in oil. So when you deep fat fry things, you don't have to get a pan with, this much oil in it. You can do it in a shallower pan like this. You just kind of have to make sure that you're watching it and covering everything. I'm using canola oil. You could also use sunflower. I would actually probably prefer sunflower, but my store did not have it, so canola oil works just as well. We're gonna make the batter for the fish. I've got about a cup of self-rising flour here. I'm gonna give that a heavy pinch of salt. I'm gonna add a teaspoon of baking powder. Make it fluff up and be nice and crispy. And then I'm gonna add about a half a cup of light beer. You can use any beer you like. This is just what I happen to have. So that's a little bit more than half a cup, and I'm gonna use a little bit more. I've got the whites of 2 eggs here, and I'm gonna beat those really well. The egg white is frothy and has a lot of air whipped into it. So we're gonna add that to our batter. I've got 3 beautiful pieces of cod here. They're very large, a little larger than what you would use for fish and chips. So I'm just going to make those more proportionate for what we're using them for today. This one's a little thin, so I may leave it. These guys, I'm just gonna slice them on an angle. We use these 3 nice pieces. That's a huge portion, but it's fried food. Can you ever get enough? Let's temper our oil and see where we're at. About 320 degrees, so I'm gonna give it just another minute. I'm going to fry our French fries first, so they don't taste like fish, from the oil. I'm draining some of the water off those. Oh, those are looking gorgeous. They're gonna be so good. I'm gonna take those out of the pan, set them on a little toweling to drain. While those are nice and hot, we wanna give them some kosher salt. Okay, let's take our fish, dip it in the batter, and we're gonna cook it in the oil. We don't want to put too many in at a time, but I think it can handle this little piece. It's a large pan. You don't want to bring the temperature down of your oil too quickly by overloading the pan. Let's turn those over. Look at those, they are gorgeous. I'm gonna take these off and we're gonna let them drain for just a second. We don't wanna leave them on the toweling too long because the bottoms will get soggy, and like we've said before, soggy bottoms. We're gonna take just a second and make a quick tartar sauce with some mayonnaise, some sweet pickle relish, and a little bit of lemon juice. Wow. Let's add this. Isn't this gorgeous? I am so excited to taste this. We have our beautiful French fries. Look at this fish. It's crispy, it's golden, it looks amazing. Let's give it a try. That is delicious. There's a buttery quality to it that is really, really nice. It's a little bit salty, it's rich, it's crispy. The batter is really, really good. Whipping that egg white, whipping that air into the egg white really helps to kind of fluff this batter up, you know, and then of course the beer makes it nice and crisp. It's so good. Let's try a couple of fries. I don't ever eat just one French fry at a time. It's not ladylike. Is there anything better than fresh French fries? They could be a little bit crispier. That's my fault for taking them out a little too soon. When your oil is brand new, you have to remember that it's going to crisp a little bit more slowly than oil that maybe has had something in it before. So that's my mistake. You could leave them in a little bit longer, maybe a little crispier, but they're done and they taste great and salty and delicious. Who's ready for a Jello shot? Look at these. I would 100% be lying if I told you I could even remember the last time I had a Jello shot was. I can't. And I've never had one out of a syringe before. So let's do this. Caps are staying on. Earlier when I was filling them, I was having a hard time with these little caps staying on, but you really need them to kind of stop the drips. And for, I guess if you're passing around a bar for, you know, sanitary reasons, but who thinks about that stuff in a bar? Here goes that. That's a Jello shot. That's a weird sensation, but I can definitely see why these are popular in college bars. I mean, it's fun. Come on, let's be honest. Thank you for joining me today as we made fish and chips and Jello shot syringes from Dante's, Ted Bundy's favorite haunt back then, and some say still today as we went dining with death.